I'd like to call the meeting of the Board of Directors regular meeting tonight at this time, and Doug McCash would like to make a statement.
Good evening, everyone. As you can see, these proceedings are being broadcast via television and our Facebook page. The Board of Directors has not consented to any other use of their likeness or image. Therefore, if you have any recordings, I ask that you turn those off at this time. Thank you.
And please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
The first order of action is approval of minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the August 16th, 2018 Board Work Session meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Pat?
Just real quick, I just noticed that I have a copy of the 16th meeting minutes, and there's one in here.
They were correct. It was corrected. Had me as absent, and I'm not absent.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Anything else?
No.
All in favor? Voting's unanimous. I'll entertain a motion to approve the August 23rd, 2018 Board of Directors regular meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
There were.
Who has the proxy tonight?
Oh, excuse me. We do have a proxy.
I do, so I'm double vote.
Okay.
David Watchell's proxy by Jim Hampson.
David so approves.
Yes.
Okay.
Executive session was held on September 12th. The decision was by the board to postpone the assessment increase vote until 2019. Another executive session was held on September 20th. The decision by the board that Director Brandenburg's actions were not in violation of policy 1.10, and his apology was given by Director Brandenburg and at the comments at the community meeting on September 13th. So his apology was given. Financial report, Dwayne?
Okay, testing one. There we go. Okay, we're going to start with a different report tonight. We're going to talk about the cash reserve assessment. And we've got this with a consolidated. We've got the water. Water is right here. POA is here, and this is the consolidated. You can see where our cash in our long-term and short-term investments, mostly short-term. Water has $5,602,800. POA current month $674,700. Consolidated $6,277,500. That is where our reserves are as of the end of August. That's the cash. And then here are restricted funds. We have the bond payment on the water side. We have the debt restriction fund on our the money going into the bond that we have to set aside. And then we also have the water meter project. Still $1.5 million left. But we've got a new line on here. It's called Reserve for Emergency Fund, POA and Water. And what this is the 1.7 million. This is the 1.2 million. That is the POA's emergency cash and also the 500,000. And it's all sitting under water, which leaves a balance of water at the end of the month, 1.191200, POA 435.5, and the consolidated 16267. That is all of the monies and the reserves that the POA has right now. Now we want to show cash and investments. This is from the balance sheet. This is December 31st, 2015. Water had $7,225,400, POA $11,724,100, consolidated $18,949,500. A lot of people say about $18 million. This is where we are now. The numbers that you just saw. 56028, 6747, or 62775. The question begs the change. What happened to the money? We're going to show you the money spent, the board approved projects that was spent with this money. Major projects funded from cash reserves. This started in January the 1st, 2016. I didn't look at any numbers before that. Through August the 31st. This is the money that has gone out through the cash. Cooper led 88 projects to be in line with the current legislation on 88 projects, $200,000 across the POA.
The POA phase by threat of water disconnect. And we're already taxed too much as a nation. We're already taxed too much locally, and be able to and the government wastes our tax dollars. And I feel that our fees are already too much, and I think the POA wastes our assessment dollars. I'd like to see some more common sense spending with all of our assessment fees. Okay. That's all I have.
Jerry, did you want to address that?
Thank you. I appreciate your comments. I appreciate the comments of everyone that has come here tonight. Several have talked about the fees, whether or not they're going to raise, lower, whatever. At the current time, we're studying the fees with holding back on the assessment vote that may affect fees for this coming year. At this point, we don't know. But there will be a public meeting November 8th at 6 o'clock in the evening at Reardon Hall where we discuss the fees. So everyone is welcome. We would appreciate comments of what do you think the fees should be prior to that meeting so that we can work on things. So.
And what about like with the water disconnect? Like I said, that's not something that's been touched on in a long time. I've heard hearing stories of people with threats of water disconnect. I read about that.
Do you want to address that?
Yeah, the policy was implemented a number of years ago to allow for that. The water system is a common property, and to have access to that, they pay their $24 a month, the membership fee, which I guess you pay, or does your tenant pay that?
Yes, they do. Yes.
Yeah. So to be able to have access to water, they have to pay that fee.
Because obviously we're talking about increasing the fees, so that's something definitely need to consider. Water is a pretty important thing. I know. Obviously people need to pay their POA fees, but really that should not be used as a tool for that.
But they work many different ways in trying to help these people come into their water situation, or before the water situation is even dealt with. So it's not automatically shut it off. It's they work with them to try to get their payment done.
But it's still an option.
It's an option.
I just don't think it's an option. It should be on the table. That's a life essential thing.
Okay.
A POA thing should be granted. Like I said, people live here should pay it. If it exists, we signed up for that. But it's a tool that should not be used, I don't think.
Thank you.
What about the guest passes?
In regarding your comment about renters should have the privileges, back in the 60s and then the 70s and 80s when I got here, the POA inferred that was legitimate to have the homeowner or property owner go ahead and say to the renter, if he's an annual lessee, that if he'll pay the lessee, he can be assigned the privileges, and then the member would not have the privileges on that particular house. But that was declared illegal and illegitimate about probably 20 years ago. But they used to do it, and it helped get more renters here.
There was a court case in the early 80s that decided that.
Mm-hmm.
So they decided back in the 80s it was not.
Yeah, it's not legal.
It's not legal because I know I think for a guest it's like $80 a week to have a boat. So we're talking pretty substantial money if the person has a boat and wants to go fishing. Right? Our lakes are awesome. I'd love to be able to advertise to renters saying, hey, come out here and have your boat and be able to enjoy our beautiful Bella Vista. But it's difficult for me to advertise it as such right now with the guest pass issue. So I'd like to see that possibly reassessed in the future.
Thank you.
That's all for me. Thank you.
That is all I have signed up to. Go ahead.
Thank you for your service. Appreciate it. My name is Steve McKee. We're property owners, 3 Tyree Place. About 2 months ago, on August 1st, the Weekly Vista published my letter to the editor in which I outlined 3 underlying issues that needed to be solved before wasting our money on what we already knew would be the answer to an assessment increase request, a resounding no. Since then, there's been initial issues, but time doesn't permit comment. The three editorial comments were about the lots, for example. If the board truly believes it's ethically and legally responsible to vote the POA lots in inventory, then go through the door. Vote them as you see fit, including voting for board positions. If you have a problem with that, then it implies the answer to the starting question of whether or not to vote them in the first place. If it is ethically and legally wrong to vote them for directors, then it is clearly the same answer for voting them for the assessment increase or for quorum purposes. So my suggestion is don't vote them at all or none. The second issue was about the ballot. I was happy to hear that the board had decided to have a one-question ballot. Took care of the problem from the vote 2 years ago of abstentions as no's. But being the one question still doesn't really solve the real problem of the potential problem of tyranny by the majority, with the majority being the unimproved lot owners. The rationale for a $10 increase for improved lots was inflation since the supposed last increase back in 2001. If that's a valid reason and not a capricious and arbitrary decision, then unimproved lots should be asked to pay $7 based on that same inflation rate, not just $2. My suggestion is a simple percentage increase for both. 10%, 100%, whatever it is. The last issue, as many have mentioned, is about the guest policy. The policy was changed to basically open up our amenities that are private, as people have cited declaration, verse, and letter. They're for private usage, exclusive usage, not for public. And that's, of course, the problem legally decided with, gee, a member, or I mean a renter, is not a member. But it would be fairly simple to package something and say, okay, for $42 a month, you can buy a lot. We'll finance it for free. And do it over 3 years, include a photo ID, or the landowner can buy it for them. Put it in their name, $42, assuming we do all these other things I was mentioning. So the real question is about the public usage of our private amenities, with the public being basically anybody who shows up without being attached to a member, without a member present. That leads to the problem that when a member adds up the photo ID, the monthly assessments, the user fees, we pay substantially more than a person who just sort of shows up at the beach or the pool or the golf center, whatever. And I think a lot of members would agree that just doesn't seem right. We're paying it, we're the members. Bring all the guests you want, but that's not the same thing as opening it up to the public. So my suggestion is to return to the foundational, be a member. Emphasize that, put it in our marketing. We have hundreds of visitors coming here. Give them a brochure. Make it easy for them to be a member. As I mentioned, sell them a lot for $900, 0% financing for 3 years. It's $42. Then they're a member, They can be part of the community. That's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Any others? Patrick?
I'd like to just mention a couple things, or actually one thing. There have been several comments about listening to the membership. When I first became a member of the board, I thought that one of the ways in which I can listen to the membership, and it was echoed by many people tonight, listen to us where we talk, and that is on social media. Well, it's very interesting. There is one person in this community tonight that is specifically responsible for one of the things I'm going to talk about. And there's another who is not here tonight, I don't believe. I was a member of 2 Facebook pages, Living in Bella Vista and Bella Vista Less Censored. Suddenly, I have found that I am no longer able to view those pages. If those pages represent the views of the membership, how strange is it that I, as a member of the board, can't look at that page and see what the members are saying? I can't. Well, just let me finish. I cannot. Okay?
Hold on a second.
No.
Don't you guys get to refute what is absolutely incorrect, but then you...
Not in the middle of the statement.
Sure you do.
He can listen to me.
It's a public forum.
You can listen to me or not, okay? I have asked to be friended, or whatever they call that, okay? And I have been refused that privilege. Now, I just think that we have to, you know, those pages are pages which would represent a great deal of negative thoughts about how the board is not doing what they're supposed to be doing, how the community wants this, not what we are giving them. But we need to open up a dialogue that's at least, and John Null was kicked off a couple of pages as well. He's no longer even a member of the board. But we are kicked off those pages, and that closes dialogue, okay? We need to try to attack problems and issues and concerns and wants and needs, et cetera, using the media that are available to us. And what we need to do is open up that avenue. We need to begin to communicate back and forth on that avenue. Now, I don't know the solution to this. I just want to call to your attention that I have been denied the right to look at those pages. And you can say no.
Can I respond?
Yes, you can, in just a moment, okay. But I want to see what the community wants. I go to those pages to find out what the community wants. And if they're closed to me, what you're saying is, if that's in fact true, what you're saying is, we don't want you to see what we think.
First, you're being very disingenuous because the group is it's not a...
We can't hear what you're saying.
That group is it on?
Yes.
That group is not a closed group. It's open. Anybody can see from outside. Now, you can't post if you're not a member, correct? But you can see the general idea of what's going on.
But
you can like.
So I can
You can do like. But to sit here and tell people
Okay.
that we kicked you out and it's a closed group and nobody can see it is a complete lie.
But I can't comment, can I?
No, you can't comment.
Well-
But nobody, I can't
Let's
say
keep-
why.
let's
Have
keep
you
this
even tried to
conversation-
join? Have you
Let's
tried
keep
to
this
join?
Okay,
conversation going.
we're
Have you
not
tried
going
to-
to debate Facebook tonight. I think that's an
Well,
issue.
this gentleman,
And
opened
I
up
understand
the
that,
floor.
and I appreciate that. And I want to thank everybody that took the time to come to Beat Open Forum and everybody that came tonight. We'd really appreciate it, and we thank you. And we're going to move on to the joint advisory committees tonight.
Madam, can I, will we have an apology, a public apology from Dr. Brandenburg for his behavior on September 13th?
It was given last week, and it was put in the paper.
Okay, but it wasn't a public apology
Yeah, it was a public meeting.
Public meeting.
What?
Yeah.
It was a public meeting again.
Work session was a public meeting.
It was,
Jeez.
He said, but I mean, he didn't tell us to shut up in the paper. Just,
okay, it was a public meeting that was given an apology in, and so that was accepted, and we're going to move forward tonight. Joint Advisory Lakes, I think, Jerry, you're going to take that one for us, please?
Yes, I will report for the Lakes Committee, as I am the board liaison to the Lakes Committee. We'll start out with a little bit, basically from Rick Eccles, the lake managers. Completed the monthly water analysis, quality analysis, and lake sampling. We do have and recognize a very large and difficult vegetation problem. It's a lake pondweed. It's a new species that is developed in Lake Loch Lomond. It is being worked on as a plan to eradicate the pondweed, and it'd be probably a combination of a herbicide this fall, and then analyzed again in the spring, and then changing the amount of grass carp that are used. Currently, we're using about 700 to 1,000 grass carp. They're not doing enough of the job. What happens, they have a long life expectancy, and normally after they get a few years old, they begin to stop eating as much as they do when they're smaller. So we need to increase that number. The only problem is it's going to cost a little bit more money to do that. The Lakes Committee has recommended to the board to increase the 2019 budget to $6,000 for the Loch Lomond project. They finished stocking the hybrid stock bass into Lake Ann, Windsor, and Lomond. The Lake Rangers this last month has made 3,235 member and guest contacts. They have spent 126 and a half hours on the lake waters. They're working on a request from the JAC on methods to deal with the owners of unregistered boats and dilapidated docks on the reservoirs. So we'll have a proposal on that shortly. They have another proposal that we'll talk about later in the agenda, and that is the guest with dependent cards. That's all I have to report.
Thank you.
Gary's here.
Gary, are you here? Yeah, Gary's here for recreation.
Let's see if I can get this to pop up.
Okay.
All right, I'm Gary Griffin. I'm the chair for the Recreation Committee. We met back on September 10th. We have typically a full agenda. We try to get it done in an hour, but for some reason it tends to run about an hour and a half or so.
Do you want to speak into the?
How's this? Let's pick it up and walk around. But so I want to talk about the amenities this month. I'm not going to go through everything because we would be here for about, I don't know, 4 pages worth.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to do that. One of the biggest things, though, is the Branchwood reopening that's happening this weekend. We've got quite a few people volunteering from the committee, and I recommend if you have the opportunity, go out to it. And we're going to have lots of activities, demonstrations as well, from disc golf to pickleball and a few other things as well. Other happenings from Reardon Hall, we had between the 7th and 9th U.S. Tennis Association tournament. It's the first time it's ever been in Northwest Arkansas, and so that was a big plus for us. And we've got a lot of activity there as well. We had things like signs put up for handicapped use, and we also had some other signage put up in different parts of the amenities. We also had a meet and greet this last month. We had 75 to 80 people there, and came from 18 states, 3 foreign countries, and about 60% of those people were retiring and 40% were active and still in the workforce. Let's see, Blowing Springs, Val Coulter had talked about seeing the glamping pods and just how it looked. That's one that we have right now. Maybe an opportunity to add some more of those on in the future, from what I understand. I think I missed. We did have a visitor that lives on Lake Avalon, was a little concerned about what was going to happen with the beach because there was some rumors that it was going to be expanded. Now, it's not making the beach any bigger. What it's going to do is be able to we're not going to expand the beach. We're going to add some picnic tables and those kinds of things. So it's not going to get bigger.
Right.
And let's see. Gun range is back in service, and we went through those numbers as well. And other than that, most of the things have been covered. And that's it. Any questions?
Thank you, Gary.
All right, thank you.
We appreciate it. Golf, Jason, he's back there, okay. Janine.
Jason Lloyd, Chairman of the Golf Committee. We had our meeting on the 12th of this last month. Just a few highlights that we had. One program that we've introduced is a handicap flag program where people with disabilities or the elderly can get a flag put on the cart so they can drive up to the greens, up to the tee boxes. We've had 12 people so far register for that program. We had Mr. George Lester George, excuse me, was selected to be architect for the improvements of the Bella Vista Country Club Golf Course, and he was selected based on his experience with flood mitigations. Well, it'll take about 18 months to get all the permits needed, and then they'll start that whole process at the country club out here. Scottsdale's open again, which is great. It's looking wonderful, as all the other courses are. Rounds are starting to come up in Scottsdale. Starting Monday, aerification will begin on all the courses, and we'll be going through October. We had the USGA agronomist, Steve Kramer, came in during our last meeting and spoke to us about the Scottsdale winter kill and the improvements we made and Keith has made in the team. And he did stress that across the country, especially the Carolinas, because of the winter, there was a lot of kill. He said that once the greens will mature, then this shouldn't be a problem in the future. That's pretty much the highlights. Our next meeting will be the 10th at 4, right here in the boardroom. Thanks.
Thanks, Jason. Community involvement, Janae, yes.
Good evening. I'm Janae Nutt. I'm the co-chairperson for the Community Involvement Junior.
Closer.
Sorry. I'm Janae Nutt. I'm the co-chairperson for the Community Involvement Group. We had a short agenda. The main two things that we discussed this week, or this past month, was our upcoming coat drive that we did last year. We were extremely successful for our inaugural coat drive. We raised 217 coats. We were able to deliver them to Cooper Elementary, Gravett Elementary, Sugar Creek Elementary, and Thomas Jefferson, with overflow going to different community groups that needed some coats. We will be doing this from the start of November through Thanksgiving holiday and distributing after the Thanksgiving holiday to the different schools. This allows us to fill their closets for any child that is in need. And we're also taking special requests from any families that may need extra coats for other children that they have in the house, or even adults or adult children that are there. So we are currently working with the schools and the counselors to try and acquire any requests for those extra coats. The second thing that we discussed was the upcoming proposal of having a fundraising ball, what we have affectionately called the snowball, that would happen in December of 2019. And the thoughts is that we would have an auction to raise funds for different items here in our communities, such as the shuttle, the van for our senior residents. It's the beginning stages of this discussion, mainly to see that do we have the commitment, because it is a long, tedious thing to put this together, and what that would actually look at. So we will evolve that discussion going forward.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you much. Okay, that concludes the joint advisories. We appreciate each one of them. Being no old business, we'll move into new business. And the first item on the agenda would be the voting of the lots. You want to take that, Tom?
Yeah. On page 43 of your board packet, based upon property owner comments received during the last vote that was postponed, the board was asked to consider two options. Option number one, where the board will not cast votes for POA-owned lots for the next vote in 2019, or option two, the board will cast the votes with 50% in favor and 50% against. This will not impact the outcome, but will impact the quorum requirement.
Okay.
Yeah, based on,
Just a minute, Jim. We need
Yeah.
a motion first before we discuss.
and that's what I'm offering, is an option 3, that if and when this board, current elected board, does develop an alternative, and we got some ideas from property owners tonight, if we do it during this tenure, which ends in May, then I would like to propose that we exercise our opinion prior to the commitment of a proposed assessment increase, and not now, as an option 3.
Okay. Okay, do we have a motion to discuss?
Does anyone want to second Jim's motion to, I guess, kind of table this until May or sooner? David has seconded it.
Any discussion on that?
I don't like the idea of just kicking the can on down the road. I personally, oh, excuse me, I won't have the mic on. I believe that the votes the votes on POA owned lots, this is my personal belief, that they should be cast 50% in favor and 50% against. And that the reason for that is that I think that we should not influence the direction of the decision of the community with our votes, but rather have the community vote and have that expression come from the community. We as members of the board are members of the community, and we can express our own by our vote. But I think it's unfair of us to perhaps counterbalance the opinion of the community. I was very much in favor of doing that when we had the election a couple of years ago. Because I thought that as members of the elected members of the community, we were supposed to do what's in the best interests of the community. And I thought that we would not propose an assessment increase unless we thought it was in the best interest of the community. But hearing the community speak, I think that I would step away from that position. However, I think that because of the cost of an election process, we should do everything in our power to make sure that we achieve a quorum. And so therefore, I would offer that casting the votes 50% in favor and 50% against would allow us to count those votes towards the quorum, but not impact the direction of the decision.
Other discussion?
I'll tune in on this one. I'm in favor of option 1, although option 2 allows us to speak to voter apathy, which I think we can say is a widespread issue across the nation for people coming out to vote on any matter. That being said, it's clear to me that the community feels that any which way that a quorum or any vote whatsoever from the POA of the slots is in our own interest and not their interest, so I don't want to be a portion of any of that. And I feel like we need to opt out and say that we won't vote at all. And hopefully that can go into repairing some of the public relations that we clearly have an issue with.
I would like, I seconded the motion because I think we need to talk about it some more. There were ideas here tonight, and we have heard tonight from a very small portion of the community, and I think in the coming months we will be able to get more feedback from other areas of the community, and we'll find out what they feel about it. And so that's why I'm in favor of kicking the can down the road, as Pat put it. We'll have it decided before we propose the next assessment increase. We'll have it decided.
I agree with Mike. I'm not in favor of voting the lots at the 50-50 level, and I'm not in favor of waiting to make that decision. I think we've got to put that out there and just get it over with now.
Okay. Anyone else would like to enter this discussion?
I have to agree with that. I think that waiting longer right now would be a mistake to do so, and I think we need to make a decision. I would have to vote in favor of option one, just because I think that's the right thing to do at the present time. If by doing that vote, should that pass, we get an outcry from other people, we have the option to bring it back on the table and look at it a second time.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else?
I guess my comment to add to it is, based on input from some learned people in the audience tonight, we have no idea what the next assessment proposal will be, and it may be a twofold. It may be community centers, one part of a vote, and then the other vote would be not the community center, but the rest of the needed funds to operate the POA. And since we don't know, that's the reason I would like to defer that topic as an option 3 until we know what the actual intended vote is going to look like.
Okay.
I'm going to come in on that just one more time with you, Jim. I agree with the logic, but I think it's clear that Bella Vista has awakened to have an opinion now further than I've ever seen before. So I don't think any vote we have in the future will be at risk of reaching quorum. I feel like there'll be enough people that will rise up and attempt to put their opinion out there, and we'll reach quorum with or without these lots.
Okay. Others? I guess I'm not really sure how to vote when we have 3 issues.
Well, Jim, you can either withdraw your motion, or we have to vote on Jim's motion, which is to postpone. So it's up to you. If you want us to vote on it,
I'm fine if we vote 1, 2, 3. If this one becomes 3, if we get to it. Okay. Regarding the total vote.
So I'll call for a vote on the motion on the table, which is that we postpone the decision to elect whether to vote the lots or not. So all in favor of this motion?
I've got two votes to defer.
That's 3. Any opposed? Okay, that's 6. So that motion fails. Now,
right.
if someone wants to propose a second motion, then we'll entertain that motion.
I move that we not cast the votes for the POA lots in an assessment increase vote in 2019.
Is there a second? Mike seconds that. Any discussion on that?
Mary, would you agree to amend that to prior to the next election cycle of the board? Because I really don't think we can pin down, if we don't get a proposal before May, I don't think we can burden either way a board that will be elected next time.
That this board will not. So you would make the motion, this board would not.
Would you agree to that?
You lost me.
You're simply saying this board would not vote the lots instead of, for future. This board would not do it. The current board.
But a new board next
May could decide to
first could
change it.
decide otherwise.
And they can anyway.
Because essentially there will be 3 new people on the board
Yeah.
then.
I don't want to amend
Okay.
the motion.
All right. Let's call for a vote.
Any other discussion?
Well, one other thing, I'm just curious about, since the net effect is the same in option 1 and option 2, other than we reach quorum, are we better our chances of reaching quorum? Why we want to risk the possibility that we would at the last assessment vote, we would not have achieved quorum had it not been for us voting the lots.
Yeah,
No.
and that's not
That's
true,
not
Pat.
true.
We actually had 57%.
Yes.
And we needed 50%.
Okay.
However, the unimproved lots and we did vote the 600 of ours in a positive way, and the unimproved lot percentage and the improved lot percentage were pretty close to 50%, but not quite to that 51% threshold.
Yeah,
But if
okay.
these are 600 unimproved lots, that brought that part of the vote down to 47% of the unimproved lots. My numbers may be
Okay,
in
well,
error, but it actually did almost sway the vote. It brought more unimproved lots in a positive sense.
Okay, I just am trying to avoid spending money. I think you said $36,000 or so. You know, $38,000 when we can do something that effectively doesn't change the percentages of the vote, but it would guard against us wasting $36,000. You know, and I just don't see what the difference would be. I'm probably wrong, but I've been wrong before.
I think there's a big perception difference between the two.
Okay, other discussion? Would you call for a vote on that?
So Mary's proposal is option 1. The board will not cast the votes for POA on lots. It was seconded by Mike. All in favor of that motion? All opposed? Motion fails.
Shall we go for option 2?
And abstention.
Who abstained?
Me.
Option 2 goes on the table then.
If someone wants to propose option 2, they have to make a motion.
So move.
Second?
Any discussion on option number 2?
We have a second?
I
Yes,
second it.
Ruth.
Okay.
All in favor?
Wait a minute, David's got a comment.
If you truly want to cast the votes and not affect the balance of the rest of the votes, you can't do it 50-50. You have to do it 51-49.
Proportionately, or 51-49?
51-49, because theoretically,
51%.
At 50%, you could throw yourself under 51% because you're not,
Well,
you understand the math?
I understand the math, but you're talking about 6 votes.
Yes, and theoretically, it's possible.
Yeah, right. Correct.
But I don't think, excuse me for challenging your math, 50% is a truly neutral vote. And then the decision is based upon,
Well, 51-49 is truly neutral.
no, it's not.
But it takes 51%
It takes
to make it
51%.
pass.
It does.
So-
But if you vote 50% for and 50% against, the community has to, in their vote, has to make it up, make up that 1%. It's not neutral. The math doesn't work.
Beg to differ.
Because you're putting-
Any other questions or any other discussion?
I would like to comment that my conscience tells me I can't propose an assessment increase in the spring, hopefully, and then also go through the process and also realize we pay the property tax on all of these lots, and we also actively market. We have staff that's marketing these lots to bring them to houses from $16 to $24 a month, which helps our coffers. And in good conscience, I can't support voting against some of these lots. I just can't do it. And in the past, we have voted for these lots, and we have found that it is legal to do so.
Call for a vote.
The motion on the table is for option 2, 50 in favor and 50 against. All in favor? All opposed? Motion fails.
Okay, we don't have a
There's no
vote
consensus.
on consensus on voting the lots tonight. That will be tabled until next month and brought back to the table then. Moving on from there, report on the first cross-function committee.
On September 18th, the cross-functional, or the temporary name of the super committee, had its first meeting. This committee is made up of 2 members of each of the JACs. They discussed